What up, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a top 10 war defenses video. I had previously recorded this live on Twitch, but I had to scrap it and I had to start over in light of a war that we had like the day after doing that, because I now have new beliefs, new things ingrained in me. The overall outcome was the same, but the reasoning behind it is certainly either more ingrained or a little bit shifted. We're going to get into that in this video right now. Number 10. Coming at the tail end of this list is the Unlimited X-Men team. Yeah, we're definitely going to see some Horseman team on this list, guys. There's no way around it. They're great teams. However, the Unlimited X-Men team is probably the worst team out of the bunch, especially out of its mode. And they're not even the best team in their mode, apparently. But as far as the positioning goes, I really like Rogue in the corner with Phantom X adjacent to her. This is not for Crucible. This is for war defense. The hardest room is going to be in engineering, though that doesn't really change much. This is the best defense team. If you want to give it a power boost, you can put America Chavez in place of Phantom X, but that still has counters anyway. And then the typical counters are going to be Infinity Watch, War Dogs, Weapon X, or a Mirror with Cable. But of course, if there's a Chavez there, Mirror with Cable is not really going to fly. The validity of having this team on defense is going to come down to what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video. What's their value on offense? What's their value on defense? And how do they open or close doors for yourself or your enemies? That's going to be a big thing we contend with when I give like my defense. What I think is the top 10 best defense to have while not gimping yourself on offense. Number 9. Coming in right on the heels of the Unlimited X-Men team is the Tangled Web team. Yeah, if they're this far down this list, you know this list is going to get spicy. I just put in the Masters of Evil portraits here for no particular reason. It really is just the core two of Weaver with 2099. Some new characters, some fast characters go with them will definitely make this team a little bit better. I really like them in engineering, but in reactor and also in bridge, also they're obviously great rooms, right? With the disrupt to the enemy team or possibly giving yourself offense up or the buffs like that. Very, very powerful. If you want to boost this team, what you want to do is put Chavez. Yeah, I know Chavez again. We're going to see her a lot. In place of Moonstone here. So you would be giving the 25% speed bar to 29.9 and Weaver, and that'll make them go before characters from the War Dog team. So that it completely eliminates the ability for War Dogs to counter them. Otherwise, War Dogs does win. Typical counters for this are going to be Infinity Watch and A-Force. They're kind of like the sure win teams. But if you're draining your enemy of those teams, it's a pretty good win. Pretty good win. Number 8. All right, and number 8 is going to be our hero Asgards. They weren't special when they came out. They're certainly not special now, but they're a war defense team. You got to give them that. So no room really affects them all that much. They're super slow, so any kind of buffs they take will get overdone. The buffs that hurt the enemy team, like your team when you're attacking these guys, they don't really care about the disrupt, oddly enough. So the hardest room, there's not really one. I guess you can make an argument for security, but you can do that for every team, so I'm not going to put that here. If you wanted to boost this team's power, you could put Dormammu in place of Sif, even in place of Heimdall, but then you leave yourself over to some kind of blind comp. Dormammu, kind of, who cares about blinds? So that's a way you can boost this team, but that's a pretty big loss. Typical counters are going to be Eternals, War Dogs, Dad Bros, and Doom. So War Dogs are like the sure to win team. Like you just kill Thor. You don't even care about the Valkyrie passive. If you're doing like a punch across or keeping it within like 100k punch up, it's almost an auto fight. Eternals and Dad Bros Doom, however, if you miss up and you proc a Thor passive on your Dad Bros Doom team, you could lose there. On your Eternals, if your Icarus doesn't get the double flip, or you somehow kill somebody along the way with like a Loki special or something like that, and they get their safeguard and all their buffs, you could be in for World of Hurt. So, are they going to single-handedly win you wars? No, but they can get you a defense victory here or there from people playing poorly. So, they had to make the list. Number 7. All right, and this one is actually a really fun one to suggest. So Young Avengers, they're just a phenomenal team everywhere, and they still have very good stopping power in war, especially because people, for whatever reason, are very reluctant to build up their A-Force. And A-Force is the super hard counter for these guys. Everything else seems to have some sort of RNG to it, but there is another like sure-to-win counter, which we're going to talk about here. So as far as positioning goes, I do like giving the speed bar to Echo and Kate as opposed to Squirrel Girl. I know some people do the Squirrel Girl. I think Echo getting her dodges up is kind of like a win or lose condition for a lot of their counters. So I really want to make sure she's going faster because she's super slow. As far as hardest rooms go, I mean, they spawn with defense up. They spawn with offense up. Defense up from Echo, offense up, I believe, from Kate. So it's really hard to make this team much better, even with Bridge. Reactor and Security certainly help. But again, against their counters, not very effective. So if you want to boost this team, you could put Dormammu in place of Miss Marvel. But you're going to want to jumble around a lot of their ISOs. You're probably going to want to make Echo a Raider. Maybe make Kate a Raider as well. America Chavez is still a great striker. I put Healer on Squirrel Girl and then Striker on Dormammu. Something like that. But that's going to cost you a lot of ions. Now, a power drain option. So this is like, I'm putting Chavez with a different team. So I need to put somebody there. I like Red Guardian. It just kind of stops the Weapon X counter, which is very helpful. Otherwise, it becomes a lot easier to beat without Chavez. I think that's fair to say. So the typical counters are going to be A-Force with Doom. You don't need Doom. If you have a big A-Force, you can do A-Force with Surfer, A-Force with whoever. War Dogs, yes, even though Echo is stopping the Okoye, with the new characters from War Dogs, you can still absolutely blitz through this team. You just got to go right for Squirrel Girl's throat. And then the new hard counters, Tangled Web. So it is the 3 members. You need Noir for this because he puts Disrupt on America Chavez. And then you get your charges up, and then you want to bring in, I don't know, you can bring in Dad, Bros, you bring in Cloak and Dagger. You just want to make sure you tunnel out that Squirrel Girl. And from there, Weaver does the rest. They never really get any hits in. It's a very interesting matchup. If you have them built up, you should try it out in some practice modes. Number 6. All right, and then we got Death Seed. Death Seed is a very interesting team because they flex super good, but they had to be put on this list just to be objectively factual. They are a very good defense team. The hardest rooms to fight this team are going to be in Bridge, where they can spawn with a bunch of nasty buffs, or Reactor, where certain matchups have a little less punch to them, like the Weapon X. If Omega Red uses his special reactor, he's not giving speed up to the rest of his team, which is very nice. Same thing would be against the Mirror matchup. The way it works is both Magneto's ult, if one crits, the other one gets speed up on their entire team. Well, in Reactor, you won't get speed up on your entire team, so that kind of messes with that counter. It also messes with the unlimited X-Men counter as well, because Rogue won't get all her buffs up. So, can be very tricky in Reactor. The table counters are A-Force, Weapon X, and Infinity Watch. Yes, Weapon X is effective in Reactor, but not to the point where they lose. You still get to use the ability block on Magneto before he takes a turn, and then you win. This is a very, very hard team to put on defense just because of how good Death Seed can flex on other teams in this list. So keep an ear out for when we talk about that. Number 5. All right, and then we got Mobile Gamer's monstrosity that he unleashed on the war community, the Captain for Hire team, putting Captain America in there because he gives deflex, basically causing the Dark Hunters to land very little blinds. And if Shang-Chi and Misty are not blinded, it's over. And if Colleen's not blinded, it can be very quickly over as well. The hardest room for this one is going to be in Reactor, because that's going to mess again with Weapon X the most. If you want to, you can't really power this team up. Like putting Dormammu in for one of the other Hero for Hire members doesn't do anything. But if you wanted to keep your Captain America with the Rebirth team or somewhere else for whatever reason, you could throw in Drax, Red Guardian, or even Absorbing Man in his place. That's no longer going to make everybody resist the blinds, but it does give it a very particular turn order and a substitute for Mordo to make that work for Dark Hunters. So although that is a power drain, it is an option, and you can definitely trip people up to save your Captain America. So the typical counters for this are going to be A-Force, Weapon X, and Infinity Watch. Yeah, you've been seeing these names a lot, guys. There's a very important reason for that. We'll talk about it. There are some other counters you can do here. There's Tangled Web, Surfer, Black Bolt. Of course, if you use Gamma or Darkhold, you walk over this. I'm not putting them in the offensive category because, well, we'll talk about it soon. Number 4. All right, now here's where we're going to start losing people. Yeah, Weapon X is one of the best war defense teams in the game. Omega Red still gets his insane speed bar on spawn, making him go before even a character like Magneto on a full Death Seed team. So very, very dangerous in Bridge where he can spawn with offense up, or in Reactor where something like the Mirror matchup falls apart. It can be devastating. And the amount of damage this team puts out on war defense is huge. It's not really nerfed. You might think, like, how does this team factor in Crucible? And if you put them in war defenses at a Crucible, it's a completely different team. They hit super hard. So it's a very, very scary team. It definitely hurts your offensive options. But again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you do run across this team, Underworld demolishes it, and A-Force also demolishes it. A-Force can almost do it with 4 members. It's phenomenal. Number 3. All right, and here's a no-brainer for the war defense for you competitive folks. We're talking about the Darkhold team. As far as positioning goes, I really like tucking Wong beside Scarlet Witch, and I really like tucking Morgan beside Agatha, making sure she's getting called in for those basics if they ever happen to come. Hardest rooms to do this one are going to be Bridge and Reactor. So this team matters a lot for Bridge. You really want to put your biggest Darkhold members in Bridge, because that's going to mess with the Underworld counter. If Wong gets offense up and Morgan doesn't, or even Scarlet Witch, they're going to have more damage than your Morgan. And then all of a sudden your Taskmaster is putting taunt on that character. And then you're less likely to kill the Morgan using the Underworld methods. And then all of a sudden Morgan hits her special and you lose. Same thing happens in Reactor for a lot of the counters. Particularly for War Dogs, they can't get that safeguard. For Weapon X, they can't get that speed up. And for Underworld, they can't get enough counters out. So if it's a super big Morgan, you might not have enough juice in the tank on your teams to get through her. So very, very important rooms to make sure you put in some big Darkholds. If you wanted to boost this team, you could put in Dormammu or America Chavez over Scarlet Witch. So if you put America Chavez in over Scarlet Witch, you open up the door to Weapon X becoming a counter again. As long as it lands that ability block on Morgan, Weapon X will walk over it without Scarlet Witch. Underworld also is not phased by the America Chavez. Dormammu, however, absolutely demolishes Weapon X and causes big problems for underdeveloped Underworld teams, which it seems to be pretty common in the community. However, that opens the door up for War Dogs to be a very solid counter. So it's a very interesting balancing act, and it depends on where you value Dormammu's use, really. Number 2. All right, and just like Weapon X, I'm about to lose some people here because Underworld, who I think are the number 1 war offense team, do also make this list as the number 2 war defense team. Positioning is super important here, guys. You want Taskmaster in the far left of your save squads. If he's not there, he's not getting the maximum speed boost. The hardest room for this is going to be in Reactor. There are ways to power boost this team. I'm not telling you because I don't want to put that out there in the community. Typical counters are going to be Mirror, maybe with the power boost tweak I'm talking about. I'm not telling you. And then A-Force. A-Force with Doom in particular can be very good here, but be warned. Even if your Doom gets hard focused out and gets his speed up from his passive, he still goes after a lot of these characters. So if he gets hit one too many times, he can get his passive procced and still die before getting a turn. Or if somebody gets hard focused out like Jessica Jones or Nico, that can happen as well. And it's very, very scary, actually. This team is a monster. But yeah, there's ways to make it even worse. And my lips are sealed on that one. But keep this team on offense. They're amazing. Number 1. All right. No surprise. Gamma is the number 1 team. I really like the positioning where you tuck Red Hulk away in a corner, away from Hulk. Causes some people who try and do a burn attack to mess it up a little bit more. The hardest room is going to be security. If Red Hulk is hitting into a defense down target and he's super big and he clears that revive first, even if you bring in a Dormammu team, he might just completely kill somebody. His turn meter rewind on turn 1 really messes up with a lot of the counters. So speaking of those counters, the typical counters, the Gamma Mirror matchup. I've had so many people try this and hate it. And it's just getting harder the more people are putting red stars into their Red Hulks, which he is, in my opinion, the best character in the game. So lots of people are doing that. Sorry, guys. I got a cold, so I keep trying to mess with my nose so I don't sneeze. Yeah. Amazing team. The mirror matchup is a nightmare. It puts all the responsibility on you to somehow make sure you one-shot it or you lose out on attacks. So it becomes, by default, a better defense team than offense team. Awfully. I hate that too, but it's true. So what most people do now is they do a burn attack. And there's a few burn teams. There's Black Order, which was the traditional burn attack. That's very difficult, especially in security, especially against these new, bigger Gamma teams that people are leveling up to 95 long before you level up your Black Order 95, if ever. Don't ever level up your Black Order 95, actually. Then there's the Infinity Watch team, but that's a huge loss to your roster to have to use Infinity Watch to burn this. Now there's some new teams. You can definitely see them in my war videos. I'm not shy about sharing them there, but you're going to have to go see them there. And then you want to follow that up with Dorm Undying. You want to make sure that the Gamma's killing themselves. That's the power of Zombie Iron Man. You don't need to have him at any red stars. He can be at 2 yellow stars. It's just his passive is going to make them kill themselves. And Dormammu's there as a safety blanket. Then you have a couple options. I like Eternals best because if you don't pull the Bronze second turn, he's going to use his special. If he hits Dorm, he gives immunity to everybody, and now Zombie Iron Man's doing nothing. With Icarus there, he'll flip that. He'll also flip Deflex into Bleeds, activating that Zombie Iron Man passive even sooner. So I really like the Eternals Dormandine team. But the Tangled Web Dormandine team is very good too. And can technically one-shot, but I'd be wary of that. Anyway, guys, that's our top 10 list. Let's go talk about some honorable mentions, and then we got to talk about like what I would actually suggest for defense. The best losers. All right, so as far as honorable mentions go, we got the Marauders team. Yeah, I think, what were they, the original war defense team? No, that would be Coulson. But Marauders were shortly after that, and they were a monster team then. And now with Madeline, they have new life, and they're still very good. They still demand very particular counters, particularly like a Secret Avengers team or Weapon X Infinity Watch, whatever one of those, right? Then you have your Web Warrior team. Lots of counters for the Web Warrior teams, but kind of like new generation counters. So Shadowlands won't work. Ravagers is sketchy. X-Force can work, but X-Factor is workable, but also sketchy. So they still get some play there. Bionic Avengers will do like 600k punch-ups on Web Warriors, but more often than not, I've been seeing Bionic Avengers on defense, which brings me to Bionic Avengers. They definitely get the nod here as well. They are very big because people have them in raids. They start with defense up. Their attacks are unavoidable, and they get offense up on their first turn. They're a little slow, but they still pull some respectable teams. So they got to make this list too. Then you have the Astonishing Uncanny team. So that's Bishop, Jubilee, Beast with Phoenix and Colossus, or Phoenix and Magic. Very good team, but that team has kind of been destroyed lately because that they're part of the new Gamma Burn team. Again, which you can see in my war videos. Go check them out. And then we have various Doom counters. So you can shove in Doom with Marauders. You can shove in Doom with Bionic Avengers. You can shove in Doom with Dad Bros and Red Guardian. There's a bunch of different comps you can do there. Can't do the Brotherhood one anymore because Death Seed, right? Because that'd be silly. But there's definitely a lot of room to use Doom there. Because although he's very good with A-Force, A-Force does not need him. Again, I can't say this enough. There's ways to make your A-Force beat a full Young Avengers team, beat a full Heroes Guardian team, beat a full Weapon X, beat a full Death Seed without relying on Doom. That's a full tool that you don't necessarily need for your A-Force team. But let's talk about actual suggestions here. Disclaimer. So before we do that, I need to give this disclaimer. This is a very important disclaimer. We are currently at the peak of a war offense meta. We have done 160 million punch-up. We've done 154 million punch-up. We just did 170 million punch-up against Legion after the level cap against a bunch of level 95 defenses, 2 million powered Gammas all over the place, 2 million powered Darkholds all over the place, and we beat them with our level 90 teams, okay? Most teams have multiple counters, and the war offense teams with their tags vastly outpower the war defense teams. The goal of your defense is to drain your opponent's roster in very particular ways. We saw some very familiar teams in a lot of these counters. A-Force, Infinity Watch, Weapon X, and even kind of Secret Avengers Kestrel. But if you can drain those big three and your opponent trips over themselves or they start second guessing when they can use these teams, that's when you can rack up some defense wins. The goal on defense is to get defense victories in factors of 24. I don't know if I said that properly, but you want to get 24 losses right out the gate. You can do that pretty easily by having 24 Gammas on deck. All right, that's going to stall out till the third energy of the war. Then if you can get to 48 losses total, that'll stall to the fourth energy of the war. This is probably more manageable time to make sure your members can actually get in and do their attacks. And that seems to be the win-lose factor. Okay, 24 is almost a given. 48 is that's the benchmark. If you stay under 48, preferably you stay around like 35 to 40, and your opponent goes over 48, Then you have a full 3-hour window in which to clear your opponent before your opponent clears you. Now I know this is very competitive talk because apparently not a lot of people even clear their enemies' carriers. So if you're not clearing your opponent carriers, don't even look at this list, okay? Go to the war offense video I made a couple weeks ago and just take all your strongest options for offense, check out the videos, and you will win every single one of your matches. Okay, so if you're not clearing your carrier, go see that. But if you like defense or you're in a super competitive alliance, I think this is where you come for. So let me go ahead and give my recommended defense lineup. Do this if you like to win. All right, guys, so here's my actual ideal defensive line, or at least what I think would lead to the most success for the most amount of players. Now, I do think Gamma has to be put in your 10th slot. The reason for this is the mirror match is sketchy. If people try and one-shot it with Dorm Undying Tangled Web, it's sketchy. So it pretty much guarantees that you're going to get at least over that first hump, that first 24 defensive victory wins. Then I do like Darkhold on defense because they require basically Underworld. And if you leave Underworld on the table, that's a sure win for any other team that they're just going to walk it over. And then whatever you use to replace Darkhold just won't hold up that same kind of muster. Next, I really like Shang-Chi with Captain America. There's more people that play this game that have no idea about the Twitch and YouTube community and all the nasty stuff we come up with. So they're very likely to trip up on this. And that could help you get to your 48 losses on the enemy team. Next, I like full Young Avengers. I don't want to pull Chavez off. I don't think that's worth it anymore. I've seen enough people slip up because they don't understand how Nico's ultimate works. Then I like Death Seed on defense. I think that they pull stronger teams than they're able to take out, if that makes sense. They're going to pull an Infinity Watch. They're going to pull a Weapon X. They're going to pull an A-Force. And those are our big three teams that we're trying to drain. For the record, Weapon X, Infinity Watch, A-Force. Also hard counters to your Shang-Chi Captain America. Sorry, your Heroes for Hire Captain America. So that's another way to kind of drain those teams. So what we kind of want to do is make 4 of those teams. If we can make 4 of those teams where there's only 4 of those defense teams rather, that'll pull from those 3 enemy teams, that's going to help us out a lot. And if we can at least get 3 of those teams that can pull A-Force, Weapon X, Infinity Watch, that'll help us as well. Because people will make errors. They'll use their team against a stupid matchup. Like I've seen people use Infinity Watch against Bionic Avengers and then wonder why they can't take out their Heroes for Hire Shang-Chi. It's a very common thing for people to make silly mistakes. So as long as we can get 3 of those, we're really increasing our odds. Then, we didn't even talk about this team, but we're going to talk about it now. The Masters of Evil team. So we just got the mail yesterday about Kang coming out. So I'm sure he's coming out today, tomorrow, the next day, whenever it's going to be. And with his rework, they're actually going to be a very formidable war defense team. They're very fast, new stats, hit super hard, have lots of speed mechanics. This team is going to find its way onto defense. I guarantee it. And they're probably going to pull one of our 3 big teams. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Dad Bros will somehow come in and just outspeed them. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, I do think that they make this list. Then we have our Hero Asgardian team. I think this can help you either pull your Eternals, so they're less likely to try it on your Gamma, or they'll pull A-Force, again, they'll pull Weapon X, they'll pull the War Dogs, so then they can't War Dogs your Young Avengers. All of a sudden, your Young Avengers are pulling either Weapon X or A-Force, so that's good there too. Then we have Bionic Avengers, simply because they're big. If your enemy has Captain America with Heroes for Hire, then you want to Dark Hunters the Bionic Avengers, but that can be sketchy. And if people are trying that, it takes a very particular turn order, that can be sketchy there too. And then we have Marauders. Now, if you are earlier in the game and you need more offensive options to make sure you're clearing the helicarrier, keep Emma off this team. Emma makes this team better, but she's not the end-all be-all. So keep that in mind. All right, so that's like our core 9. Then for our 10th slot, we're going to pick it. We're not going to put that person in the 10th slot, but it's going to help us. And so from what we've done so far, I think it's safe to say we have like 3.5 of those defense teams that are going to pull Infinity Watch, A-Force, Weapon X. We have our Heroes for Hire, we have our Young Avengers, we have our Death Seed. Potentially, we have Masters of Evil that might be able to do that. And then we have Heroes Guardians that do kind of dip their toes in that water. That's why I say 3.5, so not nearly 4. So of these teams, I'd love to find one that'll do that. But if I am punching up into an enemy alliance or even punching across, I'll probably just go straight for the offense. So a Tangled Web team with Cloak and Dagger, with Surfer Red Guardian, with some kind of variation like that, is going to pull a strong team, whether that be A-Force, Weapon X if there's no pre-taunt, or Infinity Watch. It will pull that, or it'll pull a mirror matchup. Either way, that's a win. So that could be how you do it. Full Rebirth, so you won't have Captain America with your Heroes for Hire anymore, reopens up the door for the Dark Hunters versus Heroes for Hire counter, but people are not giving Rebirth the respect, and I understand why. I made a whole video on why Rebirth sucked, and I was going to put them into shorts, and then they buffed Rebirth, which made my whole video wrong. Rebirth is being underestimated. With their 100% block chance now, they're doing really good. Then we have Unlimited X-Men. So I have 3 of the Horseman teams as lock-ins on defense, and Unlimited kind of a lock-in. The benefit of putting Unlimited on defense is that it pulls Weapon X, it pulls Infinity Watch, it can pull A-Force, but then there's also this pesky War Dogs that can beat it. But if you have Hero as Guardians and Unlimited, that really helps pull it. So if you want to really drain those 3 teams, I do suggest using Unlimited over Tangled Web as your 10th team. However, again, if you're doing a punch-up, maybe you want to keep your Unlimited because they destroy Rebirth, they'll beat Marauders, they'll crush Bionic Avengers, and they can be used to beat Death Seed. So they do have value. Kind of on the fence about that one, but that's the team I prefer to throw on defense. Then we have Astonishing, Uncanny, that mix. I put this there just because I have seen it a lot still. It can trip people up if they try and do something stupid like Shadowlands it or Ravagers it. So that's an option. But for me, they're just a straight Gamma Burn team now. Not that exact team, but a variation of the team. Go watch the video. You'll see. And then Web Warriors. Now, the Web Warriors is for very particular alliances. It's for alliances that end up doing energy race drops to win. Not to start the race, but to finish the war. Not to start the war, but to finish the war. Web Warriors with their dodging. If it is a race to finish the war, as you can see in like my last 3 war videos, a matter of seconds determines who wins the war. Web Warriors with their dodging is very annoying, and that's that. And that's a whole toes situation. I made a video on that in the past, but that was a long time ago. So if you have any questions about toes and what that means, hit me up in the comment section below. I or someone else will definitely fill you in. But that's it, guys. So that's my top 10 war defenses. The big disclaimer that offense is king, so favor offense, especially if you're not clearing your opponent's helicarrier. And this is my ideal D-line. I hope that helps. Bye. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.